Hi, everybody. My name's Dale. I'm going to be talking briefly today about burn plan requirements on Saskatchewan public lands. So this type of thing is legislated in the province on public lands, and it's not a bad idea, even if you're doing something like this on your own private lands or some other land ownership. And I'm not a rancher. I'm apparently three steers short, but perhaps a couple will jump in the trailer this year, and I'll be a full bona fide. But I have worked with people that graze livestock on public lands in BC and Saskatchewan for a while, and been doing prescribed burning for a while. So hopefully this bit of information can help you plan some of your burns in the future. So next slide, please. In Saskatchewan, the Wildfire Act and regulations, they play a key role in how we're allowed to do prescribed burning on these public lands, be it parkland, community pasture land, what you name it. And the regulations themselves detail what is required in your burn plan. Next slide, please. Those legally established requirements in your burn plan include a site description, the objectives, why are you burning, your prescription parameters, so kind of the weather and fuel conditions you're going to be able to burn under, what site prep you're going to want to do, your ignition holding and mop up plans, and having plans for smoke management, safety and contingencies are critical, as well as a notification plan for your neighbors. And some other agencies have certain requirements, and I'll include those here at the end. Just Sask Parks has certain requirements that we include in our burn plans that maybe you as a livestock producer operating on some crown land in your province or in Saskatchewan or wherever, you may have other requirements. So next slide, please. So a site description is just very basic vegetation topography, things in that area that you want to burn, things that you do not want to burn. And you just highlight all those things on that plan, including a map. That's just really, really helpful to have a visual representation of what you're trying to burn out there. Also including, where you're going to be staging, where you're going to be setting up when you get there, your water sources, your safety zones, your escape roads, just things you want to include in that map as a site and describing your site. Next slide, please. For this burn, we were going to do it Condi Nature Reserve, just outside of Regina, Saskatchewan, and we just detail a few additional bits of information: legal land description, Latin long, size of the burn unit. We include the size of the contingency area that we don't want to burn, but if it escapes in there, we have a plan to deal with it. So there's just these certain little components of a site description that you'll want to include in your plan. Next slide, please. And again, the most critical part of this plan is why you are burning, and it will describe how you go about burning it. So if you're wanting to deal with invasive shrubs, you're gonna want to get that burned pretty hot, especially out in this part of the world. Our shrubs are very adapted to periodic fire, so they're going to be resprouting. So you're going to have probably more than one prescribed fire, or some way to follow that up with either targeted grazing, some herbicide, mowing, cutting, you name it. But those type of objectives will map out, will inform the rest of your plan as to how you're going to do it. A lot of our burns in our parks, provincial parks, we're just covered in Kentucky bluegrass, and that causes a fuel risk for us. Um, it has lower nutrition in the late summer when maybe we want to have better nutrition for the livestock that graze in the parks, for our bison, what you name it. So there's just certain times of the year where if we would burn in fall or late spring, it would be more beneficial to what we wanted to do. And again, at any time we're burning, we think this is a great opportunity to work together with other groups. The Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire Exchange is our lifeline to how we want to burn, and supplying us with personnel, uh, sharing our burn plans, discussing them, just learning how to do things safer and more effectively. And so, yeah, next slide, please. And in our case too, we share this information with our park visitors, and maybe try to educate them a little bit on some of this stuff. With in terms of prescription parameters, you just have to understand really basic things about fire that it's going to respond to weather, fuel, topography, fuel condition, how dry it is, how much there is, just certain basic metrics that you're going to want to understand. Next slide, please. And we include this. Oh, just one back. We include this as in a table. We can include things like five fine fuel moisture codes, DUF moisture codes. You can get really technical if you want to, but that's what the FFMC stands for. But a lot of things really do come down to relative humidity and wind direction, wind speed. So as we go forward, you'll see a little bit more detail on that. We won't go too far into some of those moisture codes. So next slide, please. So these just detail some basic parameters that we're going to want to follow. That's going to make sure that our burn is going to be one back, please, is going to be safe and effective. So, you don't want to get too far over 20-kilometer-an-hour winds in a lot of situations, unless you have a really good control line. Then you can be more aggressive with some of those wind speeds. Wind direction, in this case, we're looking for something out of the west, but it could be whatever suited for you. Relative humidity below 25% gets a little dodgy. The fires react, becomes a little flashy, a little hot, and as that relative humidity goes up, that fire settles right down. And so then sometimes in the evening, we like burning because the humidity is a little bit higher, and it slows things down for us, and we're just able to do things a lot safer. Other things, air temperature, how long it's been since a rain, and just important things you want to think about. And if you know a big storm's coming, those winds are going to change really quickly on you, and you're best to probably avoid a situation like that. So that's why we include 24 hours. If we know something's coming, we just shut down. Next slide, please. And again, this is all legislated, very prescriptive detail in our legislation. But again, not it would be helpful for somebody to think about this in any kind of a burn plan. But for us, we do a lot of fire guard mowing in our grasses. And, you're looking at 8 to 10, 12 feet. Well, depending on how much fuel you have there, you want more fuel, you want a wider guard. And then, and now in 5 park sites this year, we're going to be including sheep grazing, and that's just another way to build a bigger fire guard, a bigger area that's not going to burn. So where we do burn, we have confidence that it's not going to escape as we bring our fire. So next slide, please. We include a rather detailed um, organizational chart describing our ignition, holding, and mop-up teams. Maybe overkill for some of your plans, but we find it very helpful, especially when we have agencies coming that are outside of parks working together. We're all versed in the incident command system, and we use that format to plan our burns, plan our events, and it just a language that we can all communicate in, and it makes things move along a lot quicker. If we were all speaking, and trying to organize things on site that day, it would be a lot slower. Next slide, please. So we include, how many, just one back a little bit. We include a few sentences on how many people are they going to be there, what training they may have, an ignition pattern, where do we want to start that fire and where do we want to end that fire, kind of thing. And then, we just want to keep that intensity to a degree for which we have some control over. If we let that fire grow as a head fire and grow too large, we can't put it out. So we just kind of tend the fire and work it along, and we describe those situations in our plan. And if anybody would ever want more information as to how to build one of these plans, I'm happy to help. We have a template on the Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire website. We can walk people through how to do that. Next slide, please. So our ignition patterns, in this case, we're doing some dots and burning along a control line, something very basic, but those dots kind of slow things down as our ignition pattern grows, and we have a very safe, large black area to which that fire is not going to cross once we put in a strip fire or a head fire afterwards. Next slide, please. We like to detail, who's going to be there and what equipment they have, and we want to make sure that that's an adequate amount. And that kind of comes with trial and error a little bit, but you want to have more is better than less in case you may need it. So we have quad ATVs, UTVs with ranchers, we call them, so water tanks, pump, and a hose reel, and then different hand tools and things, flappers. Water packs just to help us. Mobile water tanks are really useful for refilling equipment if you're far away from a hydrant. So just things like that to include in your plan to make sure you have enough equipment and personnel on site. Next slide, please. And here just details, just shows you that there are quite a few people in some areas if we're dealing with a sticky situation. So then you have the resources you need, even if it seems like too many, you may need them, and so it's best to have them that rather than trying to hunt them down later. Next slide, please. And then mop up is really important. We can't leave a park site smoldering and walk away and think somebody's not going to notice or that's not going to be an issue for us. So we really are diligent about putting that fire out, going through the whole burn site in a grid strategic pattern to make sure none of the smokes are missed. We're kicking little logs over, we're kicking cow patties over, we're stomping them out, we're hitting them with water, and we're going to do that until they're all out. And that just provides the public, the people in and around the parks with that reassurance that we're not going to leave a fire that may start up overnight if the wind picks up. Next slide, please. Smokes, super important. People just do not want to have to deal with a bunch of smoke. And in this case, you can see some buildings in the background. With this fire was pretty close to a city, so you want to have a plan for how you're going to deal with that smoke that's coming off that fire. We like to shove things. Most parks have lakes, rivers associated with them. We like to throw that smoke right over those rivers and things, and they dissipate for us. You want to avoid highways. You want to have a plan to make sure that that smoke does not cause you a problem later. So there's just certain times of day, certain wind directions, certain sizes of burns that are going to be important for you to understand and create that control over the smoke that you're making. Next slide, please. And again, like I say, you can have a couple people on site with a match and a shovel. What happens when something goes wrong? So we build into these plans contingencies. So if something goes bad, in this case, what's plan A, what's plan B, what's plan C? And we usually end up having just more people around and more backups and notifying people to let them know that if something bad happens, we're going to be calling the SPS, the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. They're going to be bringing in a helicopter if they think they need it, that sort of thing. The volunteer fire departments know what we're doing in the neighborhood. We're just always a backup plan, always a backup. So that fire, if it does happen to escape, it doesn't very often, but God knows it does. And so you have to have a plan for that to deal with that sort of thing. And that's really important to include in these plans. Next slide, please. And what we use as a last kind of go no go situation, we just have a little table in our plans to just say that we've done our due diligence. We have everybody here we need. The conditions are ideal for what we're trying to do, and we just check those all off. And if they're not, if we're missing something, you just don't burn. It may be frustrating to have a bunch of people out there and they're all looking at you ready to go. And you know what? The conditions changed, something changed, and you can't go that day. And that is a very special learning moment when you have to put that burn aside for the day and plan for another one. And it's probably better that you do. Next slide, please. Yeah, and notifications are really important to us. A neighbor that gets surprised by a fire is usually pretty unhappy on the phone, and we have to manage for that. So we call as many people as we think in an area. We're reaching out by letter, email, phone call, what have you, just so that they know what we're doing and it's not a surprise to them. And even if they do, if somebody's driving through the area, they see smoke, they're going to be calling 911. That's going to be routed to information that we provided through the control burn line. And those people know that a prescribed burn is being conducted in the area for a certain period of time. And then they can notify those people that are being concerned about it. So, like I say, notifications are really, really important. Next slide. Yeah, and this is just for private landowners. You are not required to take this kind of steps to do your prescribed burns on your private land. You know, it's just a phone call to the control burn line. Really simple to do, and they're great. You just give them the land location, you give them when and where what you're burning, and then you call them when you're done. You know, so it's pretty simple. If you're close to a provincial forest, there's another step where you get a burn permit number, but it's also very simple. So I just recommend that everybody always do that. Next slide, please. So in our burn plans, and this is not a legislative requirement, but it really sums up what we're trying to do to our burn plan approvers in a very simple document. So some of those site preparations, some if we're doing a really big burn, that's going to score us on this chart that you see below there. It's a complexity rating system chart, whatever. And the more risky, I don't know, the more challenging a situation is, the higher score you're going to get until the point where and to the point where you move from a basic prescribed burn that I am tackling these days to a more complex burn with people with more experience than I am. They're gonna be able to tackle those more complex burn. You just have to have more planning, more contingencies, more approvals in place to do those sort of things. So this really helps uh, sum up that information for an approver. And we also include an executive summary. You'll see an approver page right away. I should stop before I go any further. Burning on public lands in Saskatchewan, there is a report that you do provide after you burn to the public safety agency. And again, I can help anybody draft some of those reports. We've done a few of them already. So next slide, please. We include a budget in ours, just again, just to tell an approver, what costs are associated with it. It's just a typical government plan that'll have a budget in it. So we're accounting for staff, lodging, perhaps different things like that. But it's not everybody's going to need a budget in their burn plan. Next slide, please. And yeah, just to have a look at this could be for a half a hectare or 25 hectares, whatever. Will go through a good 10 people before we get final approval on that plan to go and burn. So just something that we keep record of on each of our plans, and it goes up all the way to our assistant deputy minister here and to the for the vice president of operations in the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. So there's a lot of people involved that approve these plans. Next slide, please. And that's it. That's it for me. So thanks very much. I hope I didn't go too long. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's my turn is next. So my name is Ken Morris. I'm the operations manager with Association of Manitoba Community Pastures. I'm along here with Pasture Manager from Spy Hill, Zane Fredbjornson. So yeah, we're part of what used to be the PFRA system in Manitoba. We formed our own group and come up with much the same processes with the PFRA, how they ran things. So yeah, so we're a non-for-profit producer-led organization. We're committed to enhancing and supporting the livestock industry by providing high-quality grazing balanced with sustainable rangeland stewardship. And yeah, so part of our deal is we've started working with CPPFE, and like I say, we're doing some controlled burns to try and help out manage grasses and make things better for our cattle. The bottom to these two pictures was a burn that we did last year at Spy on the Spy Hill, Saskatchewan side. It borders the Manitoba Saskatchewan border. Half it's in Manitoba, half it's in Saskatchewan. So this burn we did, it was it was our first one with following some of the CPPFE requirements, and then with the permits for Saskatchewan. So and on the right is just a trailer unit we use for hauling a lot of our equipment, and just our go-to. We can throw a quad in there if we need to, and it's ready to rock and roll every spring and fall. So it's just a little bit of equipment we've got. Next slide, Kat, please. So one of our biggest issues that we have within our pastures is brush encroachment. Like I say, the costs of clearing are very high. We all know that the price of cats and hose are costly, and so we've been always looking for other ways to gain more grazing areas, because the more grazing we can give our cattle, the better they do, and possibly the more cattle we can put out on our fields. Um, excuse me. When the pastures were under the care of PFRA, clearing was a common practice. Now, like most of those areas have slowly regrown and are now needing to be reclaimed. So with the use of fire, we can maintain and keep our cost factors down at the same time. So yeah, like the picture you see there was one we did in 2023 at our Ellis Archie pasture, which is just by between St. Lazare and Macaulay. That was a full one section piece of bush grass. It had been burnt a couple times, and that was the I believe the third burn we had done on that site, and it really is cleaned up and reclaimed a lot of that. The cattle can get through there, and it was fairly heavily dense, like wooded areas. So we're hoping if things can dry up enough for us, we're going to do one more this year, and I think it should get that cleaned up enough that can make it a productive land for us. So next slide there, please. So here's just a picture, like say, with some equipment that we've got. When we show up to our site, this was at our Spy Hill burn last year. Again, that trailer, it goes everywhere we go. We had a truck with a little tank on it that we could make portable, movable at any time. We ran with a Jeep Roxer with a ratch kit in the back, as well as a 6x6 Can-Am. Just makes it a lot easier for moving around. In the same time, we had a quad there for quicker movement, just monitoring. If somebody needed something, it was quick to run around with, where the other bikes could stay where they were needed, and make sure everything was under control. We also had a pipeline within the pasture that runs water to all the different fields, and we had an outlet set up there for a quick fill if we needed to. So we had conducted like burns in the past, and have successfully completed three burns now, being a member of the Canadian Prairie Fire Exchange. Our plan is to continue this process and the training. That's the biggest thing, is to try and get all our members trained. And we want to increase the burns each year. For this fire, we had two neighboring pastures come and help us out. So it's worked out well, and we just keep working with each individual pasture and bringing in more when we can too. So yeah, here just shows a little bit of our black line that we were doing. We set that up. We gave ourselves a good black line. We had some decent trash cover on the fields. We also, fortunate enough, we have enough truck trails that run through. We build a lot of it off of there, and it just gives us, it's a very sandy pasture in this case, and it gives us a really good fire guard to get things set up and make sure that we keep the fire under control. Next slide, please. So these are some pictures, like between the black line completed at the south end of the Spy Hill burn, and then that's the bottom left is the black line. That's in the southeast corner. We were going to be working with basically a northwest wind, so that was kind of our catcher's mitt down there. We did three of the sides with that black line, and then when we let her up in the northwest corner, we let her roll, and it did a really good cover for us. So you can see the two pictures on the right. It's the bush there after the fire, and some of it's still working away. It really laid a good black cover on the grass, and it really thinned out the bush. Next slide, please, Kat. Yeah, you can see here, this is the day after. You can see how it really cleared everything out. You can see all the cow path trails through there where before you couldn't. Unfortunately, I didn't have any pictures of it before, but it did a really good number on it. This piece was about 200 and, was it Zane, 225, 250 acres?
Yeah, I think it was 230.
Yeah, so right in that range that we did. And like I say, that was the idea, was to get that bush so that things can open up. This year's plan is to basically, well, that was a part of it. The next part is, what's the next piece? A section?
Yeah, section on the north side of it.
Yeah. And it's basically all the same thing. A lot of dead brush, a lot of undergrowth, just stuff that needs to get cleaned up, and then we can gain more grazing.
Yeah, we had 2 years of tent caterpillars come through, so we got a lot of dead trees out there that just need to be burnt up and cleaned up.
Yeah. And these are just a couple more pictures of the equipment we were using, like the little rocks, that orange Roxor Jeep there with a ranch kit in the back. That thing could move and get anywhere with that. And then behind it was a Can-Am 6x6. And again, same idea. Very valuable, quick to get around, can handle the weight of the water very well. We've tried a few different side-by-sides. The smaller ones do struggle. But with these, we've got the equipment to do it. And then, like I say, there's a slip tank on a little trailer unit. And fortunately for this one here, we were less than an eighth of a mile from a manifold system that we had set up, so that we could fill tanks out of a 2-inch line at 20 gallons a minute. So it would be a quick fill if we ever needed to. But with our preparation, everything, that it was a textbook burn. And like I say, this year we're looking to do that piece again, plus the big section to the north. So it'll be interesting to get it done. Plus, we want to try and get one done at Elsarchie as well. So we'll be moving forward with that, depending on the weather. So, Zane, anything else you want to add to that?
Well, as for grass rejuvenation, the last summer when we put cows in that field, it's just amazing. Them cows would graze the burnt area and stop at the road where there was no fire on the other side. They just preferred that new grass. And in the bush, they just went in there and grazed like I've never seen cows in the bush before. So it was a real benefit to the grazing part of it.
So yeah, so that's where we're working on. It's one of those things, like, we've got a lot of acres to cover within our system, and some areas we can burn, some areas we can't, and we're just trying to grow our system and our program, and with any luck, we can get a little bit more equipment and spread it out within our province, and we can accomplish our goal eventually, a little bit more of reclaiming some of the bushland and rejuvenating the grasses. So I think that's about all I've got to add. So, Dane, I miss anything?
I don't think so. No, that's pretty good.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
I want warm weather. I want to get burning already.
Exactly. We got too much snow still. But thanks.
I guess that rolls into my presentation. I'm Sam Morrison. I work at the Aberdeen Municipal Pasture, northeast of Saskatoon. We had the opportunity to do a controlled burn at the pasture this year. It was this past year at the Trex event, and it was our first opportunity to sort of delve into fire as a weed and brush control management tool. I got to attend the Trex event a year prior through NCC. Our pasture has done some work with them, and they've been very gracious with sending me to some training events and lots of information. So I got partnered up with them. They let me know about the Trex event, and fortunately enough, somebody was interested in allowing me to become more competent and more useful around Trex. So they let me be on the incident management team the following year, and we did a burn at the pasture. It took a little bit of talking with patrons and with the RM to get everybody sort of on board. It's not typically immediately taken as a great option by a lot of ranchers, because the thought of burning food for cattle is a little bit of a difficult concept, especially when you're potentially short on it. But I think we're going to start to see some results from this fire and hopefully get some of my patrons to attend some of the Trex events, or maybe some of the smaller fires that we have going on in the province, where some of these other organizations need some manpower, and we can get into doing some of our own burns on the community pasture ourselves as a patron group. The RM was pretty gracious when we asked. They were very eager to volunteer areas to attempt to burn, and we got government approval. Dale Gross helped a lot with getting the paperwork done, and we ended up actually burning on Crown land. We didn't use the RM land, but we did burn on some Crown land. So I guess next slide. This is the start of our Aberdeen burn, I believe, on the on the southeast edge where we started our test fire, and everything seemed good. So we started proceeding from there. We had a north and south holding and ignition team. Next slide, please. Yes, this, I guess, is just from across the valley, sort of looking at us as we got started. Next slide, please. So yeah, if you can see the red dot down in the bottom right corner, that's where we started. And we proceeded. We had a pretty nice wind, so everything kind of went really, really well, really easily. We had a little bit of fun getting down to the water. We had some issues with terrain. We weren't able to get UTVs and things down in there, so we just went in with manpower. We burned a black line and stopped it with rakes and shovels and proceeded from there. Burn went really well. It was my first opportunity to lead, so it was a pretty neat experience getting to command a bunch of very competent individuals. I guess next slide. So we've got quite a bit of excitement from the patrons to see the results of the burn. As you guys can see, there's roads on both sides, so quite a lot of people. There was some traffic that day, a lot of interest, a lot of individuals were able to see what we were doing and heard from the RM what we were doing. I think we're going to have a grass walk there this summer and look at what some of the results are for that piece. And we have a plan going forward to remove a bunch of the old fencing that was damaged and down in the grass, replace that, and we're intending on putting some animals in there this early spring, hopefully, to see if we can use some animal impact to do brush control in the lower areas where we had quite a bit of poplar growth. I guess one of the bigger challenges I think we were facing is that we had to make sure that this is something that pencils. We don't necessarily have a lot of grass carry over on every year, so it's difficult to find locations where we can burn that grass and not use it for feed the following year or that year. But I think if we have positive results from these fires for weed and brush control, we're going to start to see gains on those areas, and it'll be easier to leave fuel for a burn coming up. Yeah, I guess that really falls in with improving the pasture and adding tools to our tool belt to improve these pastures, improve grazing quality, and get more pounds of beef off pasture. So, thank you.
All right, I guess I am next. Thank you, guys. So I'm gonna finish up with this presentation with a couple of points. I want to mention first the importance of monitoring post-fire, and also how we can help to develop these burn programs with different organizations. So I'm going to start by mentioning about monitoring programs that we are working on and why they are important. Okay, so I guess the question is, why should we be implementing some type of vegetation monitoring? And I guess it, whenever we think about conducting any type of treatment in our land, whether it's prescribed fire or any other type of land management tool like herbicide application, grazing, mowing, etc., the general idea is to restore or improve those habitat conditions. And the general assumption of that, particularly with prescribed fires, is that we expect a positive result or a positive response on those applications. But generally, those are not. So there are a few points that I want to point out why we should be conducting grassland vegetation monitoring. And at least three of those is that, first, we want to ensure that those treatment applications have positive effects. And that is quite linked to what are our goals, what are our expectations, what do we want to achieve. So let's say we want to achieve to improve a grassland's productivity, or maybe another goal could be to reduce invasive species. So those are two different types of goals. So we need to target our treatment applications to achieve those different management goals. My second point will be to ensure the sustainability of grasslands over time. So rather than we don't want to damage our grassland land. We want to actually conduct that in a safety way that we can ensure that the sustainability of our grasslands are maintaining over time. So we don't want to actually harm our land. We want to ensure that those are maintained in a healthy way. And the third point is that whenever we conduct any type of land management application or tool, they are cost effective. So for every dollar that we invest, we want something in return, right? So those are kind of the three main reasons of why it is important to start doing some type of vegetation monitoring, because we want to try to ensure that our goals can be achieved. Now, how does prescribed fire vegetation monitoring work? I'm going to go this very quickly. And we can think about this as a kind of a conceptual management cycle. And the first thing that we need to think about is what exactly is our problem. So what is our problem to determine what is the goal that we want to achieve, and also what are our values that we want to protect. So whenever we have those in place, then we can start thinking about developing any action plan, implementing those action plans, and of course, including some type of monitoring in order to know whether those plans are actually working properly. So again, the most important aspect whenever we want to implement an action plan is to identify what is the problem that we want to deal with. So let's see, as an example, this land here, this picture. I can think about many problems that we have here. I will think about maybe we have a lot of fuel built up that can mean a highly risk for wildfires, or maybe that also represents a land with low species diversity. If I'm a conservation agency, I'll be interested in to maintain species diversity. So in this picture, I will think that this particular land has maybe low species diversity. If I want to value species diversity, this land is not properly managed. So those are our problems. So in order to start working on what type of implementation or action plan I will work with, I will start identifying what is our goal. So in this case, I will start by saying, yes, one of my goals will be to improve species diversity in this land. And I will think, hypothetically speaking, that prescribed fire might be one of the action plans that we'll implement to achieve that particular goal. So what do we need next is to quantify that problem. So we need to start looking at the numbers. What is exactly the problem here in terms of quantification? So this is just a picture of a couple of our summer students collecting some information in one of our lands in Saskatchewan. And they are collecting some data on how much quantifying the problem, in this case, dealing with some shrub encroachment problems. So quantification of the problem is really important. Now, how do we conduct those quantification of that problem? So we need to do two things. One, we need to conduct some type of data collection on the area that we want to improve. So we can see here in the left side of the slide, you can see the previous picture of the example. And on the right side, we can see another picture that shows what it looks like a healthy grassland. So what is the idea here? So we need to collect information from the area that we want to improve, but also have something that we can compare with, something that it looks like in a healthy condition. So we can compare, and that is a representation of something that we want to achieve. So in this case, we collect information in the area that we want to burn on the left side, and also collect information in the area that represents our reference condition. So how that works? So this is an example. It's a made-up example. So this is not a real example. And based on what we want to achieve, let's say we want to increase native plant species in the area that we want to improve, the burn area. It only has 7 species, native plant species, but in the area that represents our reference condition, the one that we want to compare with, it has 17 native plant species. So that is kind of a quantification of the problem and a quantification of the goal that we want to achieve. And then we start implementing the action plan. So in this case, we are conducting a prescribed fire because we think that prescribed fire might help us to achieve those goals. So we follow all of those rules that Dale, Ken, Zane, and Sam were talking about. So implement a prescribed fire in a safety way with all of the fire guards, with all of the equipment that is required to conduct on a safety way. And then 1 year later, we start analyzing the results. So we start collecting that information again on the area that we conducted the prescribed fire, and we collect information on the area that shows as a reference condition. So again, we're trying to compare those 2 different areas in order to see if we actually improve our area that was having some type of problems. And this is our results. So this is, again, this is a made-up example, not necessarily works in this way. So in red are the numbers that show before that prescribed fire was conducted, and in black, those numbers show what we have achieved after implementing that action plan. So if we think about, as an example, the number of native plant species at the bottom of the table, we see that the area that we conducted prescribed fire actually increased to 17 native plant species compared to the previous year, which is only 7. And that, if we compare that with our area of reference or our reference condition, we can see that those numbers are looking sometimes similar. So in this particular example, we can see that implementing prescribed fire actually improved our conditions on that area that we wanted to, we have different problems. So again, this is not a real example. It's not necessarily work in this way, but this actually provides an example of how we can collect information with doing some type of monitoring to help us understand whether our implementation of any action plan actually help us to achieve those goals. And now, how we can start working on this. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of our organization, the Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire Exchange. And this organization is a collaboration between different institutions, different conservation agencies, landowners, who use prescribed fire as a land management tool. The idea here is that we are not alone. So we work all together, we help each other, we share equipment, we share expertise. With the idea of all working together, we are achieving the goal of conducting prescribed fire on a safety way. Right now, we have 22 partners, official members of the Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire Exchange, but those are open to anybody who wants to be incorporated into our group. So if you want to start being a member of our organization, just reach out to us and we can start a conversation. So what are our objectives? Specifically, we have 3 different objectives. So one, we help to conduct fires. So we provide some equipment. We also provide training opportunities as a second objective, and we also share fire science. So we're trying to provide the most accurate information on the scientific side to help us know whether we are actually conducting prescribed fires appropriately. And the general idea of the Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire Exchange is to make fire more accessible to all of these conservation agencies, landowners, etc. And one of accessibilities for them is to use the equipment that we have. So we're very fortunate that we have funding from the Weston Family Foundation in Canada. So they provided us with a little bit more of $1 million, so we can use that money to buy some trailers, buy some equipment, and that can be used for those different organizations to conduct their prescribed fires in a safety way. We also provide some training opportunities. One of our training courses is the Introduction to Prescribed Fire in the Grassland Environment, which is an online course. It's a 15-hour course provided through the University of Saskatchewan. It costs $150, but we also have scholarships if that's is inaccessible for some of the people. Yeah, so that's one of our first basic training opportunities, but we also provide some live fire training opportunities. In this case, I'm talking about specifically the training exchanges. So in these training exchanges, it's a 1-week live fire where everybody is helping each other to train each other into how to conduct fire on a safety way. So we have developed so far 5 different training exchanges, 3 in Saskatchewan and 2 in Manitoba in the Aspen Parkland. And we are actually organizing a new treks this next May in this year. And with that, I think that's all we have for you guys. If you guys have any questions, please post it on the chat box, or just unmute yourselves and just talk about whatever or comments that you might have. Thank you so much, and thank you for all our speakers today. So I'll let Lori to handle the questions right now.
Great job, everybody. We don't have any questions in the chat, but I think people would appreciate some follow-up on maybe that grass walk if you get that planned after your burn.
Yeah, we're still in the planning stages on that, but we're hoping to have a solid date nailed down here pretty soon, and then we'll start advertising. It'll be open to the public. I think we're aiming for late June, so should see some good regrowth. Should have time to get some fence done and possibly have some animal impact on that. And we'll also be doing a bit of a trial on some soil inoculant that we've been sponsored by Humaterra. So there'll be a few different things to see. If anyone's interested, they can get a hold of me, Sam Morrison. Okay.
Great, thank you. There is one question. It says, I saw some burning of aspen. Do you change the intensity, season, etc. of grazing after you burn from pre-burn grazing?
No, I didn't change my rotation plan at all. I always wait till the 3rd leaf before I graze any grass, and as it was that area there, it was grazed probably the start of July, so we had really good grass regrowth at that time, and yeah, it did knock back the aspen suckers, so it was a beneficial fire in that part. And inside the bush, like right inside the trees, it really knocked down a lot of the regrowths. And like I said, the cows went in there and they grazed hard inside the bush, so it was good to see.
I can add to that a little bit too. We had a little bit of aspen that we were targeting on our burn at Aberdeen, and have had some experience with one of the pasture managers from the Borden Co-op pasture. They had a wildfire roll through there and had a lot of aspen regrowth that was very troublesome. So when we did our burn at Aberdeen, we planned to hit that aspen patch with a lot more intensity. So we kind of ended up getting that fire rolling quite a bit hotter and faster to really hit those trees hard. And then we actually ended up shooting some pyro shots into those trees to get it burning as fast and hot as we possibly could. Then we're going to hopefully be getting cattle and some animal impact in there as early as we can this spring, just to really beat up that aspen. Potentially could spray in there too, as the fire makes the aspen more susceptible to spray when it's in a weakened state. So
That's all for questions, but if someone wants to just come on, unmute themselves and ask a question, we'd welcome that too.
I have a question for Ken and Zane. Have you guys, what are the main challenges you guys have for implementing prescribed fires?
Dealing with the weather and finding the time to concentrate into it. We're busy trying to get fences going, water systems going, and all that stuff has to be done at the same time as trying to incorporate controlled burns. So the biggest thing I find is trying to be able to schedule it in and juggle everything that we need to do within the system and deal with the manpower that we have. We're fortunate we can bring a lot of guys in, but they're also trying to get the same thing done. They're trying to get the fences going. They want to make sure the water systems are running so that we can start taking cattle in. So that's the biggest thing. I think it's just time management is the biggest thing, and then dealing with Mother Nature. It's your go window is so small, and if you're not ready, you're behind before you even start.
Yeah, if a guy can have a really good April and have it snow gone and good conditions to burn, then that is actually the prime time, I think, is late April, first part of May. A lot of times we're looking at doing our backfires in May, which, like Ken says, that just puts we're all trying to do the same thing, get fences cleaned up, water systems going, and taking cows. And we start taking cows usually after the long weekend in May. So that's only a couple, 3 weeks to get everything incorporated into that time frame.
Yeah. And then we look at spring this year, like say over at Zane's pasture, there's still tons of snow in the bush, and for the most part, all around Manitoba, there's still lots of snow. So again, now we're dragging behind. So it's always a fun challenge trying to juggle everything.
Yeah, Barry, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, just an observation on grazing. I did a lot of prescribed burning and a lot of grazing to try to control aspen regrowth. And if you don't pump up your grazing, I call it, and intensify your management to put pressure on aspen, 1 year observation won't get rid of aspen. Aspen is this long-term species, and 5, 10 years down the road, you'll be back to the same or worse aspen stand that you had to start with. So I'd encourage everybody to think of prescribed burning as only the first step in aspen management or bush management. After that, it turns over to the grazing manager, unless you want to be in a continual cycle of burning, which there's good research shows that doesn't work either.
There's the follow-up in that kind of along the aspen lines again. Will you plan temporary fencing to focus grazing intensity within the aspen stands that are burnt?
That'd be a great thing to do. Like you could really push your cows in there and concentrate, because that aspen, when it's young, they will eat it. They'll graze on it quite well. When it gets too big, they don't. But early grazing on young aspen does work.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic management tool. I think it just comes down to time management. We don't typically have time to put up temporary fencing, and that at Aberdeen Pasture. I know it would be a good thing to do, and that's where we're gonna try and get some permanent fencing dealt with, and attempt to manage it more intensely in that area. But that may be something we want to implement going forward, because we're pretty well aware of the fact that aspen does not respond kindly to one fire. It tends to increase its growth rate exponentially. So that's our target species, and our goal would be that we would weaken it, either control it through grazing or spray or both.
And I've got a couple spots in the pasture from years past where wildfires went through, and it's thicker than hair on a dog's back. So that's areas that we haven't burnt yet. And yeah, the regrowth is something else. And it never got grazed hard enough at the time in too big of an area. So yeah, there's going to be management over there someday. But for now, what we're doing is working on areas that we can work with. and yeah, and hopefully change the aspen regrowth look just through fire and grazing, and hopefully don't have to use spray, but if it comes to that, we will.
Yes, Barry, go ahead.
So I guess a philosophical question, do you think there's enough people to be trained that can do this, or that will do it, that will push back the aspen problem that's accumulated in all the prairie provinces over the last 100 years? Because it's immense, and it's not going to take one or two burning crews. It's going to take hundreds.
Yeah. No, that's the thing too. Even with us, like we're just fresh into this, trying to get a program going, and we're working at it. And it's just a matter of expanding it and building it and getting it stronger, so that we can have multiple fires going in one day. Where right now, just with the training and the equipment that we've got, we're pretty limited on what we can do. But yeah, that's the goal, is to be able to do it, and it's good. It's a big undertaking, no matter what you do. So.
Mm-hmm.
Barry, we were on the call before you guys got on, and in certain states, they're burning 2 million acres a year, every year. So it's not feasible maybe here right now in the Canadian prairies, but people are doing it. So it's kind of exciting to think that if we just kept going and building, maybe we could tackle some of these big problems.
Yeah, part of that is there's some states in the states that the state will assume the liability for prescribed burns as long as they use a certified prescribed burn manager. To my knowledge, that does not exist anywhere in Canada. It certainly doesn't exist in Alberta.
Yeah, that burn plan I described to you, once it's approved, is my liability protection. So if I follow that plan, I'm not personally liable for what happens. It's like, if
Right.
back to God, whatever happens, heaven forbid. But that's why I can operate with that assurance.
On public land under your agency, but what about a private landowner burning on a lease piece that doesn't have that same protection?
I gave you all those things. Nope.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right, it's top of the hour, Roy. I'll turn it back to you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. It's 8 o'clock. I think we're gonna wrap up. Okay, so thank you so much to our speakers. It was a really interesting discussion, and thank you, Lori and Carol as well from the Great Plains Fire Science Exchange, and Kat Sense from the Canadian Prairies Prescribed Fire Exchange, Matthew Brown from the Nature Conservancy of Canada for your collaboration in making today's webinar possible.